Hey YouTube, what's up? Welcome to this video about LED strip soldering. My name is Joshua, I'm an artist in Barcelona and this is the workshop that I got here. My most famous piece so far is this table. You can see it in one of my other videos on my channel. If you're new to the channel and if you're into DIY, anything with soldering, LEDs, infinity mirrors, make sure to subscribe, leave a like, comment on what you saw in the video because I can use all the support. And I'm recording this in a heat wave. It is 32 degrees right now here inside. But yeah, in this video you're gonna see me make two different approaches on LED strip soldering. One from the bottom. It's a technique that I seem to have noticed that not many people even know about, and also a technique to try to make them as splash proof as possible. Again, good for outdoor projects or just any project you feel like building with LED strips. So yeah, let's dig into the video. So this will be about everything that we're going to be using throughout the whole video, and I'll just show you what exactly everything is. Of course we need some LED strips to solder on. I will be using a different approach on each of one of them. Then the LED controller to control them, of course. The soldering gun, which is one that I can regulate the temperature with a small dial. Very useful because every soldering material has a different melting point, 227 degrees Celsius specifically for this one. We have our flux. This is our heat transmitted material, very useful to grease your soldering material to get it better onto the strips. And this is my little soldering mate here. It's very useful to put cables in or to put your strip inside to get a hold of it. It has some weight to it. A little pincer to hold on your wires or to hold onto your strip or anything that you want to hold that becomes very warm. We need some cables for the wiring itself. Then these male-female connectors are very useful. They're not the best for big projects just because not a lot of power can go through them, but just for this video and for a very small project they are more than useful. We have our little cable stripper. Extremely useful tool, this one. Of course, just the normal wire cutter. And then here, heat shrinking tubing. This is very useful in any type of wiring. If you want to create a wire loom, you can get these in very long distances, very useful. And then of course our hot glue gun just for isolation. So yeah, I'll set up the working bench and I'll go over this step by step, show you guys the entire process of the two different approaches. So here we have our first strip that I'll show you. We're going to solder these from the bottom. That's a technique that I do not see many people using. It seems to be a forgotten technique or just a not known technique. Of course it depends on strip to strip. It's not possible on every single one of them, but just with the right amount of research you can find that out. Now the trick is just you need to peel off the sticky side. So first just this. And then it's a little bit tricky sometimes to really get the film because it's a film that they put on. So you just peel this a little bit back until you have the first points exposed. You can always just put this back again, fold it a bit. And there we have nice access to these points at the bottom. And so yeah, this video is going to be full of little tips and tricks because we have the soldering mate, but it's a bit tricky to put it, of course. Here we have exposed LEDs. So I just put a little piece of heat shrinking tubing as a protective just over the strip itself. Then it's much more safe to put this in there. I've already let the soldering gun heat up. And just before soldering it's always good to just give it a little dip in the flux. It's a good heat transmitter and it also makes it just better to make it transmit onto the copper strips. So of course we need some wires to connect. These are also just some leftover standard RGB wires that I have that are laying around. I always have leftover pieces. So these are of course strips with only 3 connectors, so we only need 3 wires. I'm going to take out the blue one, which is usually the backup signal. That's just something that we don't have with this LED strip. And as you can see, these have already been soldered. It's probably a piece of wire that I've already used once before, maybe for a video or whatever. So we still need to prepare this tip of the wire. So that's where this little baby comes in. That's a very, very useful tool. This is here for the tension, how hard it presses. Just like that. Nice, perfect. Okay, so I'm just gonna pull these a bit apart. I hope that not the entire wire, because yeah, it does come apart. Well, that's not a big issue. You can put this in the solder mate just like this. Spread this a little bit apart. It's not necessary to torque these. I try not to do that. That has no point at all. Better to leave your wires just as they come. Okay, perfect. So then what I always tend to do as well with these wires is I just cut off a little bit of the top. Because with these LED strips there is already not that much room. These are small contact points, and it's always better also to leave your wires as small as possible. So we're gonna come into this way instead of this way, because also, again, this is something that seems to be overlooked, but if you come in this way, your strip, well, it's basically very simple, you know, you have the wires at the bottom, so you do not see any wires here at this point, which makes it good for an install, any kind of build or project. I use this a lot in cars. I used to work a lot on cars in tuning. That's actually one of the tricks I did there. So yeah, let me show you. With our green one, the middle one, then we have our ground here. Positive at the top. Alright, that's looking very good. Take this out here for a second. Let me just give this a little trim. So this is how it looks now. I trimmed this still a little bit off, the tips. These are good strong connections. You can really pull hard on these. These will not go anywhere. And yeah, as you can see, the wires are nicely hidden, you know, you don't see anything. They're at the bottom. And so the next little thing is just we need to protect those tips just a little bit more, you know. It always depends, of course, on what build you're gonna do and how you're gonna install them. But it's always just a good piece of advice to always protect soldering points just a little bit more. I'm gonna put in the hot glue gun and I'll be right back. So then yeah, all that we have left to do is just put some hot glue over these points. There you go. You can always put some heat shrinking tubing on top, but I will show that approach in the next step of the video with the other LED strips. Also, just a little pointer, it can never hurt along the way to just clean off your soldering tip. I always do it with just a little cloth that's a little bit moist. I never use anything abrasive, and when I quit soldering I actually dip it in the flux to protect the tip from oxidation. So in this part of the video I will be showing you guys a totally different approach, and the reason is just because these have like this waterproof covering, but I always prefer the word splash proof covering. Waterproof is a really big and dangerous term when it comes to electricity, LED strips and anything that has to do with that, but I'll just show you guys the way that I approach this to make them as splash proof as possible. Like for outdoor projects or anything, or bathroom projects, this is always a good idea to go with. So these have the IP65 covering, so this is a complete silicone covering over the entire LED strip. And just the first step to take is you need to kind of peel off this little start here of the silicone covering. Sometimes a bit tricky to take off. I always try to go just to the first LED strip and a little bit before, cutting it off nicely. There we go. That's how we start. Here of course it's an advantage with the covering. It's very easy to put this inside the soldering mate. So just like this. I'll let the soldering gun heat up again. So let's see if this baby's warm enough. Oh yeah, that goes nice and gently. Let's shake this off the remains. Alright, this looks perfect. Nice. This is the advantage of a heat controlled soldering gun. Like now I did not even burn this silicone. You can still read all this nice little lettering. If it's too hot it just melts and it burns it. That's actually the issue that I had with my previous soldering gun. So, and in this case, like I'll just show you guys these connectors. These are very useful to have. So yeah, it's basically always a bit the same preparation with cables. I just like to trim off their tip just like this. And then again, same procedure. Okay, and if there's any remain on your tip, always shake it off. Just another little wording of advice. It's time to connect these on the LED strip. And again, just same thing, you know, always just nicely trimming off these tips of the wires. Any remains of soldering material could always make contact with anything else. There we go. And now of course, maybe I should have said this in the beginning, but you always need to make sure of the way the LED strip is wired itself. A lot of them have errors on them. Some of them are a bit unclear to see. This one is very clear to see the little errors on it. So that's the direction of current. Let's place this one at this side for this time. Time to put one of the connectors on. This one is the ground on top. Move this a little bit. This one. Then the last one is the positive. And this job is looking quite positive so far. Okay, nice. I hope it is clear to see. So this is how this is looking right now, but we're gonna leave this still a little bit in the soldering mate for some time. Okay, just like this. It's time to heat up the hot glue gun again and to protect these contacts first. And I really try to press it in a little bit Also making sure to have like the little exposed wires completely covered in glue. So I'm gonna let this top part dry a little bit first, and then I'm gonna rotate it and do the bottom as well. Okay. Okay, nice. Heat shrinking tubing is of course very useful for any type of electrical wiring, if you work on wire looms and anything such all sorts. Just gonna trim a little piece off right here. Put that over the strip just on the point where we did all of that nice work. Just gonna slide this over. I'll turn it around so that we can get a better vision of what we're covering and whatnot. There we go. So that's gonna go just here, just over the glue, not covering the first LED. Okay, let me take our hot air gun. So this is one tool I of course forgot to mention. This is a hot air gun. It cannot fit entirely here because I'm filming a little bit weird. But yeah, so I basically just use that to heat up my heat shrinking tubing. It's better to do it with a hot air gun instead of with an exposed flame. So I'll heat it up a bit and I'll just show you guys how it works, how it looks like. The good thing is as well, because we used that silicone glue, as you maybe can see, I hope you can see this in the video, it melted a little into the heat shrinking tubing. So that's actually a very splash proof protection that we made there. Now of course you can always put extra pieces of heat shrinking tubing along this to protect the entire thing. I'm not gonna do that just for the cost of the video, to keep it as low as possible. And also I think I already showed as much as I could here so far. I'll just show you guys. I will hook these up. I will make a connection with our little LED controller. So yeah, I've connected it with the 12 volt power supply because yeah, as I've said before, this is a 12 volt LED strip. This is a 5 volt LED strip, so I just cannot connect these directly. I need to put that in a different way. These can be done directly. I've already put this to the right setting. It's literally the first time connecting these, so yeah, let's hope these fire up, otherwise the whole video's failed. Of course, look at that. So yeah, the WS2815s, as you can see, individually addressable. The advantage is they have a data channel, but also a backup channel, which means if your data channel is interrupted or one LED is broken, all the rest will still work. I use these in a lot of my other videos. If you go to my DIY little cube video, these are the same ones that I use also for the Ceramid. Looking good. So yeah, I'll show you guys how to wire up the other ones, the 5 volts. So as you can see, for the purpose of this video, I had to take this apart. So again guys, don't forget to subscribe, like, comment on the video please, because this is a lot of work and it's about 32 degrees inside right now. So yeah, I disconnected the entire table now. So the way it works is we have our 220 coming in, gets transformed to 5 volts. One positive goes to the LED strip, another positive goes to the LED controller, and also a ground to the LED controller. I put the signal on the LED strip and also a ground on the LED strip from the LED controller. And yeah, this is how these strips work. These work very fluently, these work very nice. So yeah guys, as you can see it's pretty hot in here, but that was about it for this video, you know. You saw both ways of my approaching, the bottom way and also the top way, making them almost splash proof again. Of course you can take this in much more detail. This video is just like an introduction showing you guys the steps, the procedures on how to do it and how to do it properly. You can always add more. But yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you guys like and subscribe, because yeah, it's quite hot in here. But I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.